I'm not down shooter. I'm a great stretch four for the team. I'll do everything on the court.
Let us know if you've heard this one before. A young man from China, not just the most populous country in the world, but one of the most basketball crazy, emerges at a young age as a super tall, super skilled, do-anything prospect. The son of a Chinese basketball pro, he learns the game at a young age. He emerges as a guy who could set fire not just to China's CBL, but to international basketball and the NBA. Before his career got derailed by injury, that was Yao Ming, the Houston Rockets' legendary 7'6" center. Yao made one NBA All-Star team after another. Shaquille O'Neal called him the hardest player he ever had to guard. So when a new youth from China showed that kind of promise early in his career, scouts of the world over took notice. Fanbo Zeng was that prospect. Let's look at what made him so exciting.
Signs of greatness.
By Kevin Murphy. Zeng! Oh, he flew to the rim.
He had a polished and versatile game from a young age. When Zeng first arrived at Windermere Prep for his first year of high school, he came in with a skill set much wider and more developed than most kids his age. He was big. You'll want to stick around for more on that in a minute, and that helped him a lot when it came to scoring around the basket, grabbing rebounds, and blocking shots. But he also had a smooth mid-range jumper with the kind of practice mechanics that made it seem like, with work, he could extend his accuracy to the three-point line. He could handle the ball well and showed strong vision as a young passer.
He adjusted quickly to the American game.
Kirk was the first GM of the Santa Cruz Warriors. Kirk is
sitting right next to him right now.
And one for Fanbo Zeng.
Culture shock could easily have derailed a young player who flew thousands of miles to go to school and play basketball in a country where he didn't natively speak the language, where the game was faster and more physical, with a basketball tradition going back over a century rather than decades. It didn't seem to faze Zeng. By his sophomore year, he was putting up nearly a double-double to go with 2.6 blocks a game en route to a Class 3A All-State first-team honors. His size and skills made him a consensus four-star recruit and China's top basketball prospect, with ESPN going so far as to rank him the 33rd most promising young player in the world in 2021, even though, as you'll hear, they had to project forward from what he had done over a year earlier.
He was really tall.
Won't go, but how about Zeng flying in? The putback and the foul.
As former Utah Jazz coach Frank Layton once said, you can't teach 7 foot. Unlike Yao, Zeng wasn't there yet as a high school freshman. He was close, though, 6'9", when he got off the plane from his home city of Harbin, Heilongjiang. At that age, with that size, there was a very real chance Zeng would cross the 7-foot line and maybe even keep growing. A player at his size, with his skills and early reputation for coachability, it had scouts salivating in multiple colleges lining up to try to lure him to the NCAA. Sounds promising, right? Well, you've seen the title of this video. If you follow Fanbo Zeng's career, you already know his outlook doesn't stay so rosy. Zeng went undrafted in this year's NBA draft. As of this video, he's only managed to secure a very limited Exhibit 10 contract with the Indiana Pacers. There's a chance he'll never play a game in the NBA, and that's if he does make a roster. He won't be there for long. He's not even guaranteed a G League slot. So what went wrong?
He's not as tall as hoped.
With the left.
Yeah. Very proficient with that offhand. A lob for Fanbo Zeng. Nicely done.
Huge guys who can shoot the basketball are always going to get your pulse pounding as an NBA fan. Big guys who can do that are still exciting, but they're no longer keeping you up with anticipation. Let's not mince words. Zeng is still 6'11". He still has a ton of length, and that's going to be intriguing for anyone who watches him play, whether a fan or a general manager. But he's not as tall as some people hoped he would become. If Zeng had crossed to the 7-foot threshold, and especially if he shot beyond it, as he very well might have from his 6'9" teenage self, he'd be a much more coveted prospect even if his game was still rough. Instead, he only grew a few more inches as he matured and his frame filled out, making him a giant by most standards, but just one big among many at the NBA level.
He never got a chance to hone his game.
Time great dude. Fanbo Zeng, a catch and shoot.
The bigger issue is that Zheng hasn't improved that much from the player he was as a young high schooler, and that's not his fault. Few young players have been more derailed by lockdowns than Fanbo Zeng. He ended up missing his last 2 years of high school basketball in the US because he got caught in pandemic lockdown back home in China. When, because of his promising beginnings, he got recruited to top American colleges anyway. He committed to Gonzaga and had to miss his entire freshman year once again because of lockdown. By the time he was able to play, assistant coach Tommy Lloyd, who recruited him, was no longer with the school, and Zheng declared for the G League Ignite instead. Zheng also missed his opportunity to play for the Chinese national team in the 2020 FIBA Under-17 Basketball World Cup. That event was delayed, and by the time it rolled around, he no longer qualified for it. As a result, when he joined the G League, he had no experience playing against anyone above the high school level in competition. Even in terms of high schoolers, he never competed as a junior or senior. He got his first full experience of organized basketball in the G League, facing off with grown men.
His G League career has not been great.
Fanbo Zeng was hot in the first half. It continues here in the third.
That lack of experience definitely showed. The G League Ignite has been a ticket to high draft picks for players like Houston's Jalen Green. When it works out for a player, a stint with the Ignite means proving the ability to play against a collection of NBA hopefuls and even players with NBA experience. When it doesn't work out, it's an opportunity for NBA teams to get far too close a look at the flaws in a player's game while they struggle to crack the rotation on a team that's at least nominally also trying to win. Unfortunately, the latter is what happened to Zheng. He didn't perform well in the G League, struggling to find a role despite 10 starts, averaging just 5 points per game, getting few attempts and only shooting 38% from the field. He just couldn't score consistently amidst the pace and physicality of the G League. He didn't really make up for it in any other respects either. While he was touted as an all-rounder when he was younger, in the G League he averaged less than an assist per game and only a little over 2 rebounds, less than a block, and way less than a steal. Despite those low block and steal numbers, his defense was fine if unspectacular. His scoring woes meant his net rating was terrible, but he was at least acceptable defensively with good effort and instincts. With one exception. In less than 20 minutes per game, he ran up an average of almost 3 personal fouls. In addition to his other struggles, foul trouble kept him on the bench even in some of his better performances. Now that was a limited sample size. It's certainly possible that he just hadn't found his rhythm yet and that he'll end up pleasantly surprising the Pacers next year, or some other team after a more successful stint in the G League. And there was one bright spot in Zheng's troubled run with the Ignite. In his limited minutes, he did put up more than outside shots per game and made 30% of those threes. He peaked with a 17-point outing, so it was possible for him to get into a scoring rhythm. In the NBA Summer League, he improved his outside shooting to 40% and shot 55% from the field overall. That's an even smaller sample size, we know. But if he can carry that success forward and recover some of that all-around game that had seemed so promising when he was younger, then that's a lot of upside for a guy with a 6'11" frame. Zheng isn't going to be the next Yao Ming. He missed his chance to be a top draft pick. Even at the most optimistic, he's not going to be a perennial NBA All-Star. He still has the tools to emerge as a rotation player though, and may even become a really good one. It all depends on whether his disrupted development has stunted his game permanently or whether he just needs more of a chance. What do you think? Does Zheng still have a chance in the NBA? Do you think he could still be a star? Let us know in the comments below. While you're there, be sure to subscribe and click that bell to receive notifications about our future prospect profiles and all the hoops content you can handle. Until next time.